Well, it's Friday. I'm wearing a hat because if I take it off, I have to move the frame up to take my hair in. Well, here, nah, it's not bad. I'm a little fuzzy, but whatever. Good. Anyway, it's Friday, and today is Friday, not just for being Friday today, but also a Friday ago, 1 week ago. I've combined the questions from the last Friday, which I missed, and this Friday, which is now. Oh, wrist check. Okay, wrist check. I have been slowly restoring a watch out of my project drawers, and I finally finished it late last night. This is it's a 6139 7002. It's the two-tone model. Case is pretty warm, but it's got the original bracelet. These bracelets were sort of mimicking the style bracelet that Omega had at this time. Hang on a second. Here's an example of what I'm talking about. So there's that. And this is from basically the same time period. This Omega, that's 1972. Yeah, you can, the width is the same, and I personally, because the watch head is really cool. It's really pretty. I don't really dig the super wide bracelet though. So I think it would look a lot more like impressive on something thinner, but it's the original bracelet, so what are you going to do? I forget why they have the scale from 0 to 100. I have to look that up too. I didn't get to show my other one off. I can't tell you how much I love this model. And the dial looks like it's black in this shot, but it's actually this really sort of liquid midnight blue. It's just the condition. The condition is awesome. There, you can see that blue. I mean, that's all original. But the case, and the thinness of the rotating ring insert, which makes the whole dial look bigger. It's just, every time I see this watch, I just stop and it grabs me. I love this watch. What a piece. 6119, 8120, right? I think so. This is not the correct original bracelet. Correct original bracelet is correct original bracelet is one of these slot types. It's supposed to be something like that, but I don't have all the bits to make that happen. What do we got here? Hey, I was right. 6119, 8120. Cool. Yeah, I love the watch. I love the watch head. The sort of the big burly Omega style bracelet. It's right for the time. I don't know. Maybe I have to get used to it. I'm pretty happy with how this came out. It was a rough enough looking watch that I ignored it for many years. But there it is. It's pretty cool. Okay. Paul Steele. Ooh, timely, talking about hair. Get your wife to give you a haircut. Remember, the difference between a good and a bad haircut is about 2 weeks. She used to actually cut my hair a lot, like regularly. She doesn't really, she's got more than she needs to do already, so I don't push that on her. So I would normally go to the barbers, but this is happening because my barber, you know what it was like. They're in towns. There were always like 3 or 4 different barbers. You walk in and they got the game on, and they got newspapers and magazines and stuff, and the other old dudes are sitting around, and you walk in and say hi to everybody and wait for your spot and go. Well, the old barbers here, they're gone. The place is still open, but it's been bought by other people who are not they're not really down for that. I mean, the customers expect it, I guess, but so they do stuff now like you can schedule appointments and get scissor cuts and stuff like that. So everything's a salon now. So I haven't gone simply because you have to have a time, and I keep forgetting to call. Mihai Pascu. Question for next mail call. Is it possible for a stepper motor of a fuzz? Is it possible for a stepper motor of a 3863A quartz movement to lose its power and not be powerful enough to move the gears due to wear? I have two of these that aren't dead, and you can see they do try to move the gear every second, but they can't. The second hand shows an impulse, but it actually doesn't move to the next position. I tried to service one of these. I disassembled, cleaned the gears and the bridges and jewels, but after assembly and oiling the jewels with 910, the problem is still there. You can demagnetize a stepper motor. I've seen that, and it was apparently common enough happening that Seiko put a warning in the servicing guides: don't demagnetize these new quartz watches. People, you've never seen a quartz watch before. We just invented them. Don't demagnify it, because that was always the thing. Old school watch guys, and they've said it to me. They're like, oh yeah, anytime I get a watch in, out, on my wrist, off my wrist, I demagnetize it. Well, if that was your habit and you're old school and quartz was new, you're going to do what you always did. And then all of a sudden, your stepper motor doesn't work anymore. But I can't ever... It's been so long since I've run into anything even similar to that I don't even know. I don't think I've ever seen a demagnetized stepper motor personally, not that I can remember. Typically what happens with them is you're going to get some debris in there, or there's something else going on. So I actually, this time I did all my segments except for wrist check before. So I have a big segment for you. Okay, 3863. Here's this, for those you don't know, Seiko basically invented the modern quartz movement. They were very proud of the 1 second per tick thing. It was a big deal. When quartz watches first came out, they were expensive. The 3863 is kind of like the third generation, something like that. But they were still, I mean, people today think of quartz movements as being like, you know, just plastic, junk. This does have a little bit of plastic in it, but these early quartz watches were all metal, for the most part. You're asking about the stepper motor. You said, let's recap here, two of these that aren't dead, you can see they do try to move the gears every second, but they just can't. Okay, I got a couple things. First off, one of the weird tricky things, here's your stepper motor. That's what that is right there. So this thing is heavily magnetized, like super duper magnetized. So one of the things you've got to make sure that you do is you can't just run this thing through a cleaner and hope that you got everything, because if there's any metallic debris inside the movement of the watch, even like rust or something else like that, if it gets loose, it's still magnetic and it'll come and it'll stick itself to the stepper motor, and then it won't advance because you've got chunks inside those gear teeth. So the first thing to do is to make sure there's no debris on the stepper motor. The next thing is, when the watch is trying to run, you could also try to advance the sweep seconds hand. Do it from the front with the hand on, like basically just pull the movement and put that stem in and see if you can get it running without the case. There's a special tool for that, but that Seiko made, but I'm sure no one has it. But anyway, get that and see if you can sort of goose the thing along to sort of see what else is sticking with it. But these are very, very simple watches, relatively speaking. So they're strongly built. So you've got, God bless it, ugh. So you've got the main plate there. There's the train bridge. Look at that. This is one thing that's really cool, is it has something that you really only ever see in Bulova Accutrons, which is this teeny tiny little advancement lever that's holding an incredibly tiny little jewel in here. And what that does is when this ticks, that it stops everything. It basically, it's a cool thing. And it's not something that Seiko did a whole lot. It was one of those early high quality things. And there's a nice wheel. I don't know where this came from. This movement. These watches are great, but they're like super crazy 70s. And it's early. Look at the size of the crystal in this thing. It's pretty amazing. Of course, your battery, and you can have your circuit and all that other stuff. This movement was incomplete when it came here, but in any case, it's great. They're great watches. That's the first thing to check. It's to make sure that the sweep turns and that your stepper motor is not dirty. Okay. Ivan Mejia. Hi, I hope I got it right. Hi, Spencer. What watches were you never a fan of, but eventually came to love, and vice versa? Oh, I just remembered one that there were a lot, early days in Seiko when I was getting into Seiko, some of the more modern ones. I was like, oh, this is great. The watch is going to be awesome. Sumo. I never bought into the hype. I mean, I literally bought one. I had it, the orange one, and it was just like 9% too big. Just too big. Couldn't deal with it. Same with the Kinetic SUN 019. They're just too big. I never liked the monsters. Not for any other reason than that just the sort of brutalist style of them never really appealed to me. They never spoke to me in any way. I don't know. I did film a little segment, but that just occurred to me. So let's put the segment on. Okay. What watches were you never a fan of? I used to never be able to stand dress watches. Not that I couldn't stand them, it's just that I never wore them. I was also kind of on the fence about things like, mid-size quartz divers, mid-size sport divers like this, but they've really been growing on me. But to sort of cast a wide net, watches I used to never think about, and now I'm very fond of, so vintage Rolex. For those of you who don't know the story behind this, this is a Rolex 1016 Explorer. It's from 1966. It belonged to my great uncle, and he managed to destroy the watch, I think, at least 2 times. Flooded it completely. It got rebuilt, flooded it again, and then he didn't even bother emptying out the water or anything. He had a pool. They had a pool. He just threw it in a sock drawer. And I never thought about these until this thing showed up on my doorstep. My cousin, he's my cousin-in-law, my mother's first cousin's husband. I talked to him a lot. Anyway, but he sent this to me. And when I got it and when I opened it up and I saw the movement, I was like, I bet you I can bring this back. And I did. It was an unbelievably expensive and hard process, but I did it. But as a result, I gained a much better feeling for what these are and what makes them special. And they're beautifully made. They're old school. And they're really elegant. It's a really, really elegant watch. His original dial was destroyed. This is, I was told that this was a service dial from the 70s, but I don't know. I paid a lot for it, so I hope it is, but it's definitely a Rolex blank. Like the dial itself was definitely Rolex. It's old. So I don't know. I hope, but it's a beautiful thing. But this was like a 1-2 punch for me. 1, because of Rolex, opened my eyes. 2, dress watches. And this really started making me think more about them. So that's sort of a twofer.
Rolex and dress watches. Watches I used to love. I can't say that I don't love this one anymore. I know what I like. Watches have to have lume and ideally date, but I go back. I love this. This is my Omega Speedmaster. I bought this a good number of years ago and serviced it. It's from 97, I think. I find that I tend not to wear it because it's a hand winder and it has no date. It is extremely legible and it looks great on the wrist. I just can't. The stock bracelet these came on is I've never been a fan of big, heavy bracelets like this. I mean, it adds some heft. The watch head on this alone is actually pretty light. I just can't. I have a hard time figuring out what in the world I should wear this thing on. So it's not that I dislike them at all. It's just that I never wear them. Also, part of it is too is that this is one of these watches, as are these, where people who have perhaps more money than sense will buy a watch like this because it's a it's a status symbol. It's a big thing for a higher end collection to have these, to have things like this. But it's what it means is they're sort of, I don't know, what's the word I'm looking for? A lot of people have them, and they tend to have sort of negative connotations attached to them because a lot of like almost borderline non-watch guys with a lot of money own them. It is a beautiful design, though. This is a old vintage Stellux. It's too big for me now since I've lost weight. I can't wear this flops around. I don't know. I just need to put it on and get it going. I tell you, though. Even full of rust, when this thing was destroyed and the crystal was destroyed and underneath the dial was just paint flakes and it was just awful. But even there, just holding it, I could feel that it felt different. It's just something.
Okay. Starman to Fly. Hi, Spencer. Hope all is well with you and the family. Thank you for asking. We're chugging along. It's always touch and go, but we're chugging along. Anyway, I'm home from work today feeling effects of the booster shot. I hope you're better. I'm in New York City, and my job made it mandatory for employment after February 21. Got to do what you got to do. I'm 100% pro-vaccine, so we have the science. We know that it works. Every single person in America watching this video now got every imaginable crazy-ass vaccine of everything. Hell, I got smallpox. And I haven't turned into a human-alien hybrid yet. But I have so far not noticed or that I've gotten anything. I haven't had a cold in like 2.5 years. Knock on wood. Your video is making me feel better as always. I'm glad. Watch question. I'm wondering if you opened an Orient watch using the F6922 and saw a Seiko heritage like you did with the Bambino F6724. I have 3 and may get more. Nice watches. Ammonites are cool. Trilobite man myself. Take care. I have actually, oh, you can't see it. I have, the only trilobite I own is down that way. I'm going to have, by the way, there's going to be, I have ammonite stuff, but I'm pushing it to the end. So we're going to talk watches and then we'll cut it off and we'll make it the way that it is. Okay. Oh yeah, actually, I read your question and I went and I looked at the movement. Yeah, it's the same thing. If you look at it, it's a 6/6. It's a 6/6 blank blank movement. It's like a 6/619, really typical, that kind of thing. Side by side, you can see that the finishing is different, but the architecture is almost all identical. I really actually thank you because you reminded me that I wanted to get one of those movements and rip it apart and do the same thing with a 66 right next to it so I could actually see the parallels. I'd be curious to know, does anything swap over? That'd be really interesting. I want to get one of those movements and I want to put it in some 6/6 case. See if I could do it. If the dial feet are the same place, I don't know. I just want to see. I think it'd be cool. So yes. Okay. Next question, Muhammad Haji. Thanks again, Spencer. Well, thank you. Here's a question from next week's mail call. Do you know what bracelets the 61380011 UFO JDM models came with? Yes.
6138001X bracelets. It's the Yachtman. Okay, so they came with 3 bracelets. This is an original early one, not a JDM, but this came to me from the original owner. This actually has one of the rarest bracelets. This big president style from Stellux. You don't really see these too often. It's pretty burly and it's narrow. The more common one, and again, I don't have one on a watch here, is a bracelet that looks a lot like this, except the oval links are much sort of flatter. That's the real standard one. But the one that you're asking about, the JDM one, this is really crude. I'm so sorry. It's an H-link like this. Imagine it looks like that, except these mid-link things, instead of having the split in the back, that split is in the front. So these little sections, these little diddlies, are on the other side, and these edges, instead of being flush, are curled in. So it looks just like an H-link, but here you'll see this split right there, and it curls in on both sides. That's the JDM bracelet, and that's the only difference, is those middle links.
Watch me draw. I have a funny question for next mail call. Oh, you mean funny as in unusual, not funny as in haha. Okay. I have an odd question for next mail call. So many people use coffee and tea for tanning faux patina, but since prolonged exposure to the sun will bleach some things like bezels, what if the sun bleaches the loom to white after years? It's a matter of whatever the bleaching occurs when you have high energy particles from the sun come down and they knock off parts of molecules that are in the surface of something. And as they're knocking off molecules of this and that, the wavelengths of light that are absorbed change. And so that's how that works. Loom that has gone bad, that's like gray or black, or you know what I'm talking about. There's the only thing, that stuff is not a discoloration as much as, well, it is, but what it really is tarnish. It's tarnish. It's oxidized metal products that have been drawn out and pulled into the sort of salt matrix, and they've oxidized. I don't believe that anything like that would be susceptible to bleaching by the sun. You got to have chemical action to attack the tarnish, and then to sort of clean up the remains to get any extra stuff out. It's kind of a laborious process. It's not hard. It's just multi-step. It takes a while, but yeah, I don't think the sun would do anything. I don't like leaving things in the sun, but that's me. Okay. I don't think I printed this correctly, or I'm missing part of a thingy. All Ella Bay forever. I look forward to the day when you find some fossil other than an ammonite in a local rock. Oh, we were well past that. Glad to see you back, Spencer, and great your family weathered Omicron without anything tragic happening. Yes, I was very happy about that. I was dreading it, and it happened. I am going to answer this question right now. Yeah, actually, because that's a separate clip that I did just for this. Okay, I'll do that run right now.
Oh, buddy, I have found so many fossils that are not ammonites, but here's the most recent one. This is in more of that shale that's underneath my front lawn. But this piece sat in the sun for a really long time, so it's all bleached out. But again, it's one of these things where, you pick up a thing and you're like, wait a minute, what in the heck am I looking at? And it takes a while to kind of get a feeling for it. You can kind of, there's the wiggle, boop, 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 boop. So yes, that's an ammonite, but that isn't. I'm honestly, I'm not 100% sure what this is. Looking at it really closely, it kind of looks like some kind of a fish. But I'm honestly, I'm not sure. It has sort of these feathery protrusions, but then it's got this round section, and then it's got a corresponding round section over there. I don't know. I can't for sure figure out what this is. And whatever it was smashed pretty flat. I don't know. Somebody knows what that is, let me know. I mean, who knows? Tentacle? A fish? No idea what I'm looking at. So yes, I do find other fossils.
Okay. Colton Prater, you asked two questions, one the previous week and one this week. So I've answered both of those questions. The first question was, would you be able to show how you tighten the ball bearings on a Seiko 6139? What I'm assuming you're meaning is you're talking about the automatic winding bridge that Seiko uses, that type that Seiko has used for decades and decades, where you actually have literally 6 ball bearings, inner race, outer race, and that's what the weight spins on. And almost everything uses it. In fact, there's only a few models I can think of that don't. So yeah, we can look at that.
Okay, got 2 questions from Colton Prater. The first one is asking about the possibility of tightening up the ball bearings in a winding bridge. So Seiko used, and I guess they still do, they like using these ball bearings. It's sort of this caged diddly that is sort of a multi-part component. Hang on. And you get inner and outer races with a bunch of little teeny tiny ball bearings running around. Here's one. Come on. Come on. See that? 6 of them. Boop, 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 boop. Just like that. The way these are worked is you have 2 races. You have an inner race and an outer race with a cage that keeps the ball bearings in rotation at the right equidistant location. These tend to, because it's sort of a loose setup, they can get kind of sloppy and noisy. There's no way that I'm aware of to really remanufacture these things or repair them. I've tried using a staking press to basically to make the chamber narrower, but I've had real mixed success with that. This one's pretty good. Pretty good one, I'd say. So I'm sorry, Colton. You can try bonking it in to see if you can get that to close up a little bit. Might work for a while. I don't know how long it'll work. I mean, that's how they go. Look at the size of that freaking thing. How do you go about making a ball bearing that small? Anyway.
Your second question that you were talking about is, could you talk about and possibly show the Seiko 6139-6015 gold-plated? Oh, man. Yes. It just so happened that I was reorganizing stuff this last weekend, and I was poking through things, and I went and I got that particular thing out with the gold watches. We're going to look at them. So let's do it.
Showing the gold 613960, basically the slim case watches. So just for those of you who don't know, this is the gold 6139s, like this. He wanted to see these. They're a standard 6139, 17 jewel movement. This is the correct stock bracelet for them. This one's in pretty amazing condition. It's unrestored. You see it's fairly worn. It's fairly unworn, I should say. The bracelet's the real giveaway. If you look at the clasp, you can see how good the plating still is. They're the same in every way, except the cases are made of base metal. So it's not stainless steel. The reason being is that plating back then would not stick to stainless steel. Seiko now has an ion coating system that makes it happen. So because they use base metal, these things, they tend to sort of melt over time. So this one's pretty good, right? Next one down. You can see it's more beaten and the plating is wearing off the stainless clasp. And you can see the wear. It's starting to eat into the case here. You get a crack or a hole through the plating, and then the sort of the oil and sweat, if it's not cleaned regularly, will just start to eat into this. Undergoing what is it called? Is it electrolysis? It's the same thing that boats have, or water heaters. You got to put an anode in to deal with the electrons moving from a higher charge to a lower charge. This one does, and this doesn't have a sacrificial anode, so the case has to be the sacrificial anode. And they just start to get really, really kind of rough. And that one's not bad. Look, that case is pretty decent. I think someone plated this. See, that one's pretty worn. You can see there, but it looks pretty clean. You start getting into stuff like this, where the case melting has been so bad that it's starting to expose the tubes for the buttons, like this. Look at that. So, I mean, there's not much to say about these except for, you know, it's rare to see these in good condition. It's rare to see them wearable. Most of the time they were beaten to death, and they became sort of beaten to death quickly because of the plating situation. But as a side effect of that, these gold ones, they don't go for a lot of money because they usually look pretty tatty. Gold is not fashionable right now. And since the cases started to look kind of ratty pretty quickly, movements inside these typically are actually really good because they'll be low hours because this thing started to look kind of crappy and then they put it away. So these are a good source of movements. Not that I'm advocating that, but I try not to steal movements from things. That's why I have this many of them. I don't know. I just wish it wasn't the base metal, man. If it wasn't for the base metal, these things would be great.
And so, you know, that segment on the winding bridges also answers this question from Tony L. I've noticed that the rotors of 62XX movements rub on the edges of the plates and bridges. They all do. A common sight is exposed brass on the edge of the balance cock. Yep. What would cause this? Those ball bearings and the races weakening up? I see it, along with the 613X, seems to be the only ones prevalent with this issue. I've seen it on 7000 series. They have to be worked, though, like really, 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 really worked. The 7000 series rotors are they're more securely bolted onto the movement itself. I do definitely see a lot more wear with Sua products. With Dyni products, not really. Those their end will hold up well. It's the Sua stuff that seems to be looser, and I don't know why. It's just odd.
Yeah, you saw the segment I had before talking about Seiko's winding bridges. I think the big problem is not so much that ball bearings are an issue, because you're talking about, you know, that thing grinding the edges. The issue, I believe, is that Seiko doesn't use a lot of them. They seem to just march right up to the line of, you know, making things, you know, not bulletproof, but reliable, only up to a very certain point. 6. Always 6. That's not very many. You could double that and you'd have much longer life, honestly, and a tighter piece. These are 2 winding bridges from an unknown model. It's not, I don't believe it's Seiko. Look at all the ball bearings. Look at how many there are. This one also, and again, I don't know what model this is for. I mean, it could be, I don't think it's Swiss. I think it's some kind of, something Japanese, but I'm not sure. Even this one has more. I don't think that one's turning. Is it turning? Oh no, it's just stiff, right? Yeah, that one needs to be cleaned. But so I don't know what this is. Maybe this is Orient. I don't know, because it's just. But look at all the freaking ball bearings. But Seiko wants to save a few pennies, so that's what they did.
Next question. Hi, Spencer. Hello. As always, an informative, much appreciated video. Well, thank you. I wish I remember what video that was. Quick question for the next mail call, if I may. I purchased a 7002, 7001 from a retiring watchmaker. In fact, I purchased 20 plus vintage Seikos over 2 years while he wound down the business. Wow. Did you ask him where his bad parts are? You know, the old parts, the old things. You know, any watchmaker worth his or her salt will have a crazy stash of weird parts. Anyway, all watches are authentic, as he had these dotted around his workshop for decades. The bezel on this 7002 has a bluish tinge to it. Over time, was it common for these black bezels to blue? It is dated August 92. Many thanks. Okay, it's a 7002, so the lume in the pip should be slightly green. It's a green loom. That's what the 7002s have. So that's the first question. What color is the loom pip? Second question, how much wear has the watch received? Like, has it been bonked around or not, or is it really good condition? Another question is, if you look at the inside upper edge of the rotating ring, just like that. If you look at the inside edge, does it have about a 45-degree chamfer, that bevel that runs around that inside? Is that there? If that is there, look at the 12 marker and see if the tip of that triangle around the pip goes over that 45 bevel. Like, the paint, it goes all the way over if you imagine the whole thing there. Those are the first things to think, to look at and answer. I haven't seen one of those with a blue that I can remember, but it wouldn't surprise me. Seiko made them because the prevailing thought is that when Sua was behind, Diney would help out with this, that, or the other thing, and that when you see the blue tinted inserts, they are thought to be the Diney ones. It could be that, and those 7002 bezels, inserts, except for the pip, they're identical to the ones that came before, as long as they've got that eggshell finish. If they're smooth finished, then they're just the pure 7002 ones. I don't know. It's not unusual, and if it looks good, love it. Okay, 4:40. I'm assuming, are you 4:44 p.m. on Instagram? If so, hello. Great video, 2 exclamation points. Wonderful. I wish I knew what video it was. A question here, is it possible to change out the crown seal without taking the stem apart and the crown off? Thanks. This would be a question about a 6309 style. They're screw down with a O-ring gasket inside the crown, rather than the much more modern, like 7002 SKX, which is where they have the crown actually has a post or shaft or whatever you want to call it, extension, goes into the crown tube, and the seal is external on that. It's much easier. You can just change it. You don't even have to pull the stem. The 6309s use the same exact system that was first pioneered for the 6159 300-meter divers. Or I'm sorry, the 6215s. Where it basically, it's the 6215s were the first ones that had it, with a multi-part crown and stem setup. And so this information I'm about to give you is applicable to everything from that first 6215 all the way up to the 7C46s, 7548s, H558s, the Arnie's. They use that same type of style of setup. Number of the 7C, like the 7C ashtrays, use that same crown setup, same thing. So here's that segment. Okay, is it possible to change out the crown seal on a 6309 without disassembling the crown? Maybe. I wouldn't dare try it, but it's possible. But it's not the way it's supposed to be. Here's a complete 6309 type stem. It's got all the bits in it. Here are some of the bits. I'm missing the stem rest washer, so let's just pretend that that's still there. This is going to be magnetized, isn't it? Yes, it is. That's why we demag. There we go. So this male crown post, this is the one that's really going to give you troubles if you try to do it without disassembling. Male crown post is it's right in the middle, just like this. And it makes it, I've never successfully done it. The problem is you can't get under and through to pull the old seal in, and then putting the new seal back into the crown, even with this crown post not in, is quite hard. You have to like really honk around in here to get that seal to drop. And these, the male crown post there, these things,
They do have a design weakness. They're if you push on this male post too much, that threaded section will snap off, and then your crown is garbage. I have a lot of them because that happens a lot. You have to take them apart, and you have to use heat, especially when you're getting the male crown post out. Because if you just go for it, you can just break the threads. They'll just break off, and then again, your crown will be junk. So, long story short, I don't think so. Sorry, I wish I had better news.
This is a comment from Oscar O'Sullivan on a servicing video I made for the original owner of a 6105 8000, and he had bought it during his service in Vietnam. And so this person said on that video, love how the original owner still owns it and the adventures it has been on. Yeah, it's great. You know, I see a lot of old watches that clearly came from someone's estate. You know, it was clearly someone's watch. They wore it and wore it and wore it. And it's like all their history is gone. And I don't mean that it's really sort of silly and sentimental to be like, oh, you know, thinking about the lives of these people. But, you know, I always wonder, especially if the watch is pretty nice, if they're still with us, ever thinks, I wonder what happened to my watch, and I'm holding the darn thing. I don't know. That was a very special watch. Another great watch to look for that I was absolutely so privileged to touch, and I still think of as probably my number one personal favorite restoration, simply for the history alone, but is another gentleman who was in Vietnam, and he had his 62 MAS, and he got hit by shrapnel, and it damaged the crown on this. On that, I was able to save the original crown. It still shows that shrapnel wear. That's a great watch. That's a great watch. That watch is a dream. I think he's going through a growth spurt. Anyway. Okay. Next question. The Psychopath. Hi, Spencer. I'm trying to gather up spare links to return my Pogue bracelets to factory spec. Would you happen to know how many links were on a brand new Stellux, Jubilee style, 6139 6002 bracelet like the ones used on an Aussie Pogue? Well, this is that same link style. It's just that it's wider, so I guess we can count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. I was thinking that was somewhere around there. So according to this, 19. My wrist is 7.5, and I like my watches a little loose. This is a little more loose than I like, but yeah, there it is. It's not 601. Oh God, I set this thing an hour wrong. Oof. Okay. Watch Nut. Hello. I've just bought a 7548 7000 from February 1978. It has creamy dial loom with white hands and pip loom. February seems early for these. Have you seen an earlier production date before? Thanks. I see a lot of them from 88. 88's a big year. You see a ton of them from then. I don't recall. That's a very interesting question. I don't recall. I just sort of lumped them in together with, like the start of basically the golden tunas, whenever, because that's when that movement got rolled out. I think this one is November 1980. God, this is a great watch. Yep. November 1980. 78 was like, that's when everything was hitting its stride in terms of the 6309 diver watch family. So 75, I mean, these things, 7549, also the 6306 and the 6309, and all the dress watch models, the 6319, 6349. So absolutely 1978 doesn't shock me at all. It's, you know, the beginning of that year is when you start seeing a lot of the other first, like 6309s, I believe, started appearing then. Because 6306s had been made earlier. They were being made in 76 and into 77. I don't know. It's an interesting question, and I don't have an answer. If somebody does know, what is the earliest known month of production for a 7548 7000? If you know, put it in the comments or send me an email. I've got to wear this thing. There's no excuse to not wear this watch. Look at that thing. There's no excuse. It's amazing because the grandfather tuna, same exact case. Besides the movement and color and stuff, the only thing that's actually physically different is the shroud. Grandfather tuna has these sort of helmet style extensions. That's it. Other than that's exactly the same. My God, what a watch. Ooh, I love this thing. I should wear it. I should take this thing off right now and put that on. Watch nut. You should add a Tizo rock watch to your collection. I'll have to look that up. What I want to do is I want to get a tile cutter or a stone cutter or something. And so I want to be able to cut thin sections. Hang on. Okay, crisis averted. I would love to do thin sections of some of the crazy beautiful ammonites I found here. I don't know what I'd do with them. It'd be neat to make a watch dial. I don't know how you could, but that'd be pretty cool, wouldn't it? Tom N. Me again, Spencer. I see you. I had a King Seiko 4502 7010 serviced by a big name in vintage Seiko community last year. Was it me? Out of the box, it needed a few gentle taps after winding to get started. In your opinion, is that normal for this 5 Hertz high beat movement? Thanks in advance. I legitimately don't know if you were being coy and this is a watch that I serviced or what. But anyway, I have a whole segment for you.
They're a little tough. Okay, so talking about Hi-Beats now. They're a little tougher to get going. This is an automatic. The thing with the Hi-Beats is they have, relatively speaking, smaller balances with much stiffer hair springs because they've got to shuttle back and forth so quickly. So like this watch is in really great condition, and I've serviced it. So there, I just felt the weight move back and forth. Sometimes it takes a while for these to get rolling because there has to be enough power in it to overcome the resistance from that hairspring. See, look. I can feel the weight going back and forth. And it doesn't yet have enough oomph to push past that. Wow, come on. Are you going or what? There, I had to goose it. I had to get the balance to move enough. Because again, if you're being really gentle with it, because of the stiff hairspring, the balance isn't going to start going back and forth. It's not going to, start up with the palette fork. So in answer to your question, yes. Sometimes they're difficult to get rolling. I just remembered I have a 4502. Now, this watch is not serviced. It's in good shape, but it's not serviced. This is a 4502 7001 King Seiko Hi-Beat. Freaking nice watch. It's manual only. So, 1/2 turn, another half turn, another half turn, another half turn. I mean, it's a good running watch. It runs a little low in amplitude. I haven't serviced it, but it's in good physical condition. another half turn, another half turn, another half turn, another half turn, another half turn. Because again, that stronger hairspring is keeping the balance there. And then if I give it a little bit of a goose, off it goes. That's such a cool watch. Such a cool watch. Yep. So no worries.
Oh, good. JC. This is a question about Bellmatics, the 4006 movements. Is it unusual to get over 300 degrees amplitude after winding these 4006s? Mine hit 320, which seems absurdly high. Yeah. The 4006 movements, they're exquisite. They're really, really good. And they are the only movement that I'm aware of from Seiko that has this tendency. It doesn't happen with every movement. It really doesn't. But if it does happen, where you're getting overbanking, it's gonna start running so hot that you're gonna get overbanking, or they call it knocking, where basically the balance is turning too far, and it's bouncing back and forth. Only the 4006s is the only place I've ever run into that. I wish I could tell you exactly what the cause might be, but I will tell you what the fix is. And this is according to Seiko. And this is one of the rare times where I will advocate for lubricating the upper and lower pivots of the pallet fork, because the only real, you use extremely light oil, but what it does is that eats up some amplitude. It makes it so the watch has to push a little bit harder, and it's kind of a band-aid thing. I don't know, the vast majority of Bellmatics don't do it. They cruise beautifully in like the 370s and 380s. Oh, I'm sorry, 270s and 280s. And they're perfectly fine. Some of them will just go nuts. And I don't know what is going, I don't know why that's occurring. I wish I did. And it's frustrating to me that I don't know why that's occurring, because rather than lubricating the pivots, which is a band-aid thing, I would rather find out why it's running a little higher. I suppose it could be because if there's too much space for something to do something, there's not enough lash, something is not holding something firmly enough. I don't know. Okay. So now I'm going to read the last question, but it's all ammonite stuff. So everything from here on out, beyond, ammonites. So if you're not interested in ammonites, that's cool. You don't have to watch anymore. Okay. 24/7 ADT. A man who likes his security services. I know that's not true, but that's all I think. Because I had to work with ADT for, retail management, all that crap for so long, it's all I see. I just read that your area was once the center of a temperate sea populated by mosasaurs and ammonites. Oh yeah, all of the aquatic lizard stuff. But I'm sure you already knew that. I'm learning more all the time. I knew it kind of, but I never really grasped what that all meant. In Michigan, we have Petoskey stones that are fossilized coral. When my parents lived on Grand Traverse Bay, their beach was littered with them. They were everywhere, much like your ammonites. I think it's neat to be able to find these fossil remains of creatures that lived more than 65 million years ago. Have you encountered any giant ones? I read they could be as large as a VW bug. Maybe you could take a picture to share with us. I did that and more. I kind of got into the weeds with the whole ammonite thing, so I kind of just went for it, and it's a real mess. I think the key points that I was attempting to make is that there are, I point out a lot of the familiar structures when you see these ammonites, things that are in common that I see regardless of the condition of the stone, whether it's unaltered original mudstone or sandstone, or if it's metamorphic that's gone through, extreme heat and pressure from being squished. and heated up in a magma pocket. So you look at the common features, and then you can start to identify them in all these different types of rock that I'm finding out everywhere. Yeah, the biggest one I have so far found I have on the front step, and it's the size of well, I'd say it's about rugby ball sized. We can look at it. So anyway, let's talk about fossils. Oh, and I guess I have to hang on.
So yes, it wasn't just that this area was a huge, deep, low-lying ocean. It's that it was a relatively shallow, low-lying ocean from the Gulf of Mexico all the way up to Alaska. The maximum depth was apparently, I don't know, something in the order of like 600 meters, something like that. I mean, relatively shallow. I mean, not even, what, it relatively shallow. You talked about Petoskey scones. Those are really cool. And they are everywhere. I'm still mystified about how I'm the only person who's noticed this. But then sometimes I remember, I look at rocks I haven't looked at for a long time because I just think rocks are neat. I revisit old rocks and I say, oh, that one also is an ammonite. And I realize that even with all I know now, which isn't that much, but with my my increased ability to spot ammonites, rocks that I thought were just rocks, there's a lot of things in there to see that tells me what they are. But even the last time I looked at some of these rocks, I couldn't see it because they're so squished. I mean, these things, again, they start off... they start off as these like, and this is all underneath my front yard, slabs and slabs and slabs, huge, like paving stone size slabs of sandstone, stuff like this. There's tons of this stuff. I can't pull a bush or anything or dig up anything without coming up with tons of this stuff. This sort of mudstone, siltstone. And it's hard to see. Here I can see it. Look, do you see that little circle? It's an oval. Right there, see that wiggly line? It goes around. That's the thing you're always looking for. Once you kind of get to the point that you understand the shapes that you're looking for, it becomes easier to find them. Circle, 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 circle. There's the next ones there. Always more circles. These are, I mean, there's some more circles in there. Here's actually some shell that escaped being destroyed. So this is what the bottom of all this stuff looked like until it went through heating in a volcano. So you can still see stuff. It's already squished, but then it goes through a volcano, magma pocket, and everything gets melted and squished and covered in stuff. Yeah, this one's pretty easy to see simply for the whole shape of the thing, but I mean, there's some of the internal chambers on some of this one. Again, circles. You're always seeing the circles. And this is that, I wish I knew what this stuff is. It looks like some kind of marine deposit. It's on almost all of these rocks everywhere across town, no matter where I find it. This one's actually pretty cool, even though it's extremely squished, because gosh darn it. Oh, is that a mark? I don't know what that is. In case. Underneath this kind of mineral deposit, whatever this is, the ammonite, it got totally squished and stretched out. But these spots and spaces in here, that's like, it's the inside of the coil. Yeah, you can see there's one, and it comes around, and it goes around, then it comes around again. circles and circles and circles. But this is cool because those are actually some of the original chambers in this thing, except it just got stepped on. There's another middle, chamber, 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 chamber. You can see this line, these dots, and they keep going. You can see these sort of triangular ridge marks, which is how some of these things look after they've been smashed. I don't know, like this one, everywhere. And it doesn't look like anything, but it also looks like something. This one is pretty hard to see, but even I can tell without having picked at anything that there's stuff in this. Anyway, one of these days I'll split that open just to give you a sense of how prolific these things are. This came out of, I just found this in a field. This isn't like a pre-cut slab or anything. This is just a chunk of sandstone. And this stuff is everywhere because it's mountains to the west where they came up like so. They lifted up, they uplifted everything at a big angle when the mountains were being built. So you find this stuff all over the place. But even these have ammonites in them. They're extremely smashed, but you can barely see the curves. The spin, it's actually spinning, I'm sorry, it's spinning clockwise like this. And I never would have seen that in the old days. Even recently, I never would have seen it. It's so hard to see. But they are here. If you keep turning and flipping and turning and flipping and turning and flipping, you will see them. There's more there. If you look at the side, because these are the layers of the sand before everything got smashed. You can get hints of stuff, but it's really hard to see. Yeah, there's those equidistant bumps. Boom, 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 boom. And it curves up and over. And there's this circle bit that comes off of this. I don't know what stuff. Ammonites. Yeah, the whole area was an ocean. And then it was a gigantic ocean that went from the Gulf of Mexico up to Alaska, relatively shallow sea. I think it was like maybe 600 meters deep. But then you have this huge, like, base of sandstone, fossiliferous, squishy sandstone that underpins everything around here. This is a chunk of it. And it came out of the ground like this. Most of Fort Collins, the early stuff was built with this kind of rock. If you look at any of the construction around here, it's kind of a Colorado thing now. You see these buildings made out of slabs of this material, just sort of piled in making walls. It's sort of artistically done, and obviously it's not, crude in any way, but they use this kind of material. And it's so hard to see the things that are in here. Even I didn't notice all the stuff that was in here until I got much, much better at spotting the hints, the clues. You can kind of see there's the middle. You're always looking for these circles. There's the middle, and then it turns, and see, it's got these sort of equidistant bumps right here. And there's, let me see. God, you can just barely see it. It's so hard. I'm trying to turn this thing so we can see it. So this is sand that was out in the more open water, I believe. Underneath my lawn, it's all this stuff, like big ass slabs of it. Again, this is more of the stuff. Looking at it carefully, you can see, like there's the middle, and there's this turn. This is like from, I guess this is like mudstone. It's like from brackish area, a mix of salt and salt and fresh. And you can kind of see things. Do you see this oval right there? Yeah, and it goes around and around, and you can see the little equidistant spots where it spins around like so. There's actually a piece of shell from another one. Here's one. But when this stuff went through, when the Rockies started being built, and the entire area down to like the whole Southwest turned into basically a magma field and spouting off all these one-off volcanoes. So you would have, you know, this mudstone or that sandstone, and it gets cooked and smashed, and you have these structures get preserved. I mean, this one, like, legitimately looks like there's some of these that when I clean them, like, you get them wet and they're like legitimately like pink. Like, there's some of these I found that like when you really get them wet and you see it, it's like they look like they're made out of shrimp. It's crazy. Lots of different stone types too. Yeah. There's those little equidistant dots. Boop, 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 boop. Here's a cool one. More of that sandstone, but in this shell, this stuff isn't paint. This is some kind of iron that was in whatever the ammonite had in their shell. So the coil went like that. And these are some of the walls of the chambers. But it shows up like this. It's really neat. There's another one. See if you can see that one. There's the middle, and it goes around. Oh, yeah. But this one's cool because the rock split at some point later on. Wow, actually, look at that. Okay, there's the, I saw it. Where is it? Oh, anyway, the split, and then it filled with another mineral. Sorry, I saw a big curl. You can, yeah, just, there it is. So there's the middle, and then it comes up and around and down. If you look at it really closely, there's all kinds of stuff to see in these. But all this different material, like this, is basically a chunk of unmodified ammonite. These are the insides of two of the chambers. Here's an open chamber. The top is actually broken open. Almost all this stuff is always going to be along the axis of the thing. But yeah, that's an open chamber. The structure is still there. I don't remember. This is just another piece of this kind of material. There was a center there, and it goes boop, 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 boop. There's another center. You can see the tops, the ridges of the chambers there, and it curls around the top. You can see more of those dividing lines of the chambers. There's the top of one of the chambers in there, and it whips around. It's just, it's crazy to me. It's every single one. This is a bigger one. This one got squished, and it's got these mineral deposits that I see on the vast majority of these, no matter where I find them in town. And it only has this kind of mineral deposit, whatever the heck this stuff is, on one side. But anyway, this is another one where you have your ammonite. You can see the circles. Yeah. But this is another one where it got smashed like this. It preserved some of the structure. You can actually see these are the insides of the coils. And there's There are some of the chambers of one of the starting out ones. It's just, I just lean over and pick this stuff up, and there it is. This one, I just like the color. I forget. Oh, yeah. So here's the most recent one. I just picked up a rock at random in a parking lot. Can you see this one? I didn't do anything except wash this one. Can you see the curl? Yeah, it's all the metamorphosis that this thing went through. It's right there. There's the middle, and it curls. Here are the little pointy parts of the original chamber. So it goes around like this, and it's smashed, but you can still see it. Then it curls around again. Here are those wiggles, wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. And it curls around the top. These are some of the chambers. The sort of, like the side is missing here. But there they are, one, boom, boom. All of these equidistant points, this is where the chambers came together at the bottom. They had this kind of triangular thing looking at them. And that's how I can look at something like this one, which was super squished. And if you look at the equidistant points, boom, 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 boom. Each one of these things, that's a coil. Oh, I've gotten totally carried away talking about ammonites. Oh, but you wanted to see what's the biggest one I found so far? I've got a picture for you. So keep your mind on these rocks and how they look. I'll put in that picture. Ooh, I forgot to show you this one. Here's a picture of where I found this one. Actually, a couple pictures. So I just pulled it out of the mud and I cleaned it. Look at the size of that. See, they're all smashed together, which kind of makes it a mess, but look, there's another curl there. See, look. Doop, 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 doop. Another one there. You can actually see where the chambers were. Doop, doop. All these little sort of pie pan things. Almost looks like a pinwheel. This is, again, stretched and squished. Ooh, there's a nice one. Look at that one. Yeah, look, there are the chambers. One, two, doop. It's just wild. This stuff is everywhere. Oh, you can actually see in this one broken section, if I remember correctly, you can actually see some, there's the inside of a chamber. There, that's another chamber right there. But if you look right here, see, look, there's the dot. And it goes around. Zoop. You can see, again, these are some of the chamber walls, what's left of it. Actually, look at that now. I don't know, it's extremely clear to me, but then I look at this stuff all the time. Boop, 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 boop. I just can't get enough of it. Sorry, addendum. I was walking stuff back out in the garage and I saw, this is that slab of rock I was looking at earlier. So I was looking at it, and in the sort of the cross light that was coming through, I could see the circles and the patterns. God, it's hard to see. Maybe I gotta get out a little bit. Come on, not so sharp. Oh, yeah. You can see there's some 3D elements here. See, there's a circle. There's the middle. So there's one circle slightly dark. There's another circle. But looking at this thing, if you spin it, there's all kinds of impressions in here. Yeah, I'm trying to think. So anyway, I wanted to try something. This won't hurt the rock, don't worry. Maybe to make it a little bit more visible. I mean, you can see pretty well there, too. Trying to see. You see that dark section right there? Right here. If you look, I mean, generally, as I'm moving the light, you should be able to see repetitive structures in the rock. And they're hard to see from straight on, but like repetitive structures, another circle, you can see the coils coming out, and then the next round all the way over there. There's more here. I'm not sure what that stuff is. Oh no, there's the middle, and it comes, wait, no, it comes like this. Ugh, cracky. Anyway, I don't know if this will work, but I want to try it. And don't worry, this won't harm the stone. Yeah, you can see the circles in here. Anyway, I don't know if this is going to work, and it's not going to hurt the stone. I'll get rid of it. Don't worry. It's just a pencil. Just brush it off. And believe me, there's an unbelievable amount of this rock around. It's everywhere. Funny, it just looks like a smudge, right? I swear to God there are patterns in there. Wow, actually looking at this now, geez, look at that big coil. Wow, in fact, look at that. You can see it actually spinning off of the middle, and it comes around. Wow, that's almost a complete one, isn't it? Because that's what these look like. They look like a big, like a tuba. They were curled like this, and they came down, and then they went, and then your little dude was hanging out like that. So, that's pretty neat. I don't know. I'll wash it off. Don't you worry. Everything will be just fine. Wow. Oh, look at that. You can see another one there. I wish I knew what it was. I don't, but wish I did. You can see the different sand layers in here. And these dark splotches are, typically that's like remains. That's like a layer that has ammonites in it. Anyway, that's my thought on the subject. This side you can see, you get a much better feeling of the of the curlicues there. Actually, you can see the circle there, but then behind it in this darker shade, you can again see those points. Boom, 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 boom. Yeah, I mean, you can see it. There's the inner curl, and the next one, and then it curls all the way over again. And look, I'm not drawing on anything. There's that symmetry, those triangles. Boop, 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 and it comes all the way around. Those are the sections and the chambers. So it goes around, and look, and you've got a bunch of other ones. Look at this one right here, middle here, and it was sort of on top. You have to remember this was like a 3D stack, but it's been smashed flat. Crazy. All my life I've been around the stones. All my life.
That's it, folks. For those of you who have sat through the ammonite stuff, thank you. I appreciate it. I really want to, I haven't done much about the whole ammonites are everywhere thing. I'm still wrapping my head around learning about what I'm seeing so I don't go off half-cocked. So I'm still poking along on it. But thank you so much for sitting through, and that's another video. That's it. And if you guys have more questions, some kind of specific technical stuff, I'm super down for answering those questions. Okay, that's it. Have a great weekend. Goodbye, folks.